Attention, please. Shalom, everyone. My name is daughter of Yisrayl, Maggie. And I want to serve you forever as the priestess starting very soon. It's now time to start finding your seats for Sabbath services.
Shabbat Shalom. I want to serve you forever to stand very soon. It's now a privilege and honor to present to you the sons and daughters of Yisrayl now entering the sanctuary. It's a privilege and honor to turn it over to the next speaker.
Shalom, everyone. My name is daughter of Yisrayl, Maggie. Thank you for joining us today for our Young Women's Peaceful Solution presentation. Today we are going to take a little, you may be seated. Today we are going to take a little road trip. Normally on a road trip, someone would pack clothes, shoes, food, and some money. But today we are going to pack something more important than physical needs. We are going to pack positive moral character traits. Leading our journey today, we will have Abigail. She has packed honesty with her. Please stand and welcome Abigail.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. You may be seated. Today my title is going to be Honesty. From the character unit, page 14, the definition of honesty is being fair, sincere, and straightforward. Being fair means in accordance with the rules or standards. So now I'm going to go over to Deuteronomy 28, 1 through 2. Deuteronomy 28, 1 through 2. So this is an example of Yahweh being fair to us. And it will be, if you listen diligently to the voice of Yahweh your Father, by observing and doing all this law which I command you this day, that Yahweh your Father will set you high above all the nations on earth as his kings and priests. And all these blessings will come upon you and accompany you because you obey Yahweh your Father. So do you think that sounds fair? Now let's look down to verse 15. However, if you do not obey Yahweh your Father and do not carefully follow his law and his statutes, which I command you this day, then all these curses will come upon you and accompany you. So do you think that sounds fair? Yes, this is a great example of Yahweh being fair to us. So the second definition of honesty is sincere. Sincere means saying what you really feel, genuine, real, or true. Please turn over to Exodus 19:5. Exodus 19:5. So in this scripture, Yahweh is being sincere in how he is speaking to those who will keep his covenant, and he is asking us to be sincere to him as well. It says, "Now therefore, if you will truly obey my voice by keeping my covenant, then you shall be a special treasure to me above all the people, for all the earth is mine." Now the last definition of honesty is straightforward. Straightforward means not complicated, simple, and truthful. Yahweh is straightforward. He says, keep these laws and you will have eternal life. But if you break them, you will experience curses. There are a lot of rewards that come from being honest. You can be trusted by authority and friends alike. It will help you to avoid conflicts. People will not worry about their possessions around you. Being honest is going to help us make a lot of positive choices in life. I'm going to end with a quote from a well-known Peaceful Solution representative, Honest Thomas. Being honest may not always be the easiest thing to do, but my friends, it's the right thing to do. So now I'm going to turn it over to the next speaker.
Shabbat Shalom, sisters. You may be seated. I will be speaking about the positive character traits responsibility. Please notice to the chart right of me, you will see an outline of a girl. One half of the picture is labeled personality, and the next is labeled, and the other is labeled character. I want you to visualize it so you can fully understand that each one of us is made up of a combination of both character traits and personality. Personality is what we notice right away when we meet someone. It is how we present ourselves to others. It is our likes and dislikes. Put it simply, it is our face value. On the other hand, we have character. For this, we have to dig deeper within ourselves to find our character. It is not easy and noticeable like our personality. Character is a combination of values that we have gathered since birth. It helps us determine what is right from wrong. It is who we are in the inside. Our character traits can fall into two categories: positive or negative. Today we will touch briefly on the positive character trait, responsibility. Being responsible means to be accountable and answerable for our words and actions. Also, others can count on us to fulfill our duties and promises. And even we can count on ourselves to make the right choice. That will not hurt us and the environment. Responsible people are reliable, trustworthy, can receive more important duties, and also receive more privileges. In short, a responsible person can be counted on to always does the best job possible. We should aim to be a responsible person. I would like to turn over to the next speaker, daughter of Yisrayl Abel, to Dr. Hawkins.
Shalom, everyone. You may be seated. Reading from the preface of the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program, Responsibility Unit, it says, Teachers greatly influence our future leaders. This means teachers have a major impact on the outcome of the world's future. Just a few words placed in a person's mind at the proper time can actually guide that person's thinking for the rest of his or her life. A morally sound, wise, and care teacher can help 1, 10, or 10,000 students on their way to becoming morally sound, wise, caring adults. And we sisters are trained to be this type of teacher. A teacher of peace and moral values that can mold and shape others. The first and second teachers spoke about positive character, of responsibility and honesty. We have an entire program filled with teachers of the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program. So please get your pens and notebooks ready to take notes. I'd like to introduce daughter of Yisrayl, Abelin Hawkins, for announcements.
Oh yeah, praise Yahweh. Now I'd like to turn it over to the great queens of the House of Yahweh.
Shalom, everyone. You may be seated. We have a very wonderful program scheduled for you today, and I wanted to share with you first our bread sack. Our pastor wanted to make sure we started out with the joyful bread sack. And it says, "Be joyful in Yahweh and shout. Righteous ones rejoice in you. All who are upright in heart are joy-filled in you, Yahweh." And that's Psalm 32, verse 11. I'm going to show it to you right there. Now, in the midst of all the war and the sorrow and the suffering and sadness that we see in this world, we have the opportunity to be taught by the greatest teacher in the world the solution to all of these problems. And our speakers today have worked very hard to show you how they showed the solution to some people in this world and how readily they accepted it. So without further delay, I'd like for you to stand and welcome our Peaceful Solution Character Education Program missionary team.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. You may be seated. I would like to welcome everyone to our Peaceful Solution Character Education Program missionary women's team today. I would first like to start off with taking you back to 2006 to an instruction that our pastor and overseer Yisrayl Hawkins gave us, and it's out of the 6th book of Israel, Believe Without Seeing, number 6, chapter 41. Now, the title of his sermon was, "We Must Become Teachers to Fulfill the Pattern of the Kingdom, Ready for 2 billion People to Come Soon." And this sermon was given in December the 30th of 2006. If you can turn over to page 416, and it states, Pastor says, "And now, right now, we've got to get your mind on training teachers. Training teachers. We've got to have teachers. In fact, everybody here has got to be a teacher. Now, the only way you can do this, that is start studying. You know, don't let other things praise Yahweh, everybody was clapping. I think you should all clap for that, yes. Start studying. Study to show yourself approved for this job. Now I want you to think of a job. What is a job? A job is a duty. And you can do it. And remember, we're told in 2 Timothy 2:15 to study, to show ourselves approved. So I'd like to define the word teacher. What is a teacher? A teacher is the person who instructs. They guide and they direct. But what do they teach? First, you have to have a teacher, right? We have the greatest teacher in the world, our pastor and overseer, Yisrayl Hawkins, who's been training us for many, many decades now. And we have the material here, we have the knowledge, but are we applying it? Now, a few years ago, our pastor and overseer gave us a Peaceful Solution Character Education certification course. He waived the fees for us to come, to have this knowledge. Are we really using that knowledge? Are we coming to classes? Are we really applying ourselves? He knows we can do it. He told us we could. So just remember, what is your job? What is the instruction that our pastor and overseer gave us? In this time, through 2006, there's been a lot of teaching and training that has been taking place. We started a few years ago the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program, but in 2015, we also started a program that our pastor and overseer really encouraged us. Many calls came through. We want to know about the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program. How can we learn? So then, in January of 2015, there was a program started. It's called the Women's Peaceful Solution Character Education Program Skype Training Program. And this is a program that now 150 women we teach. And we teach them every Sunday, or first day here, in the sanctuary. We start at 6 o'clock in the morning and we go until noon. We have many different teachers. It's a time spent of an hour. We have adult teachers that teach, as well as our young women that you're going to hear today. And this program changes the hearts and minds. Now, Pastor and Overseer had told us in Matthew 24:14 that Yeshua said that the message will be preached to all nations, and then the end will come. And we know we're in the end. These are the last days. And we are fulfilling this prophecy by teaching and training. So I want to encourage everyone, if you would like to become a part of this program, please, later on you'll find out the instructions on how you can become a part of the program. Now, also, there's a couple simple things that you can do. Number one is come to classes. But when you come to classes, actually have your book. Take notes. Pay attention, because coming to classes, you'll learn. And in learning, you'll learn to implement it. And by doing that, you'll be practicing by an example of being a teacher to others. And that's what our job is here, to be teachers. Now, the greatest teacher in the world has taught us everything we need to know, right? So all we have to do is apply it. And we apply it by what? Practice, practice, practice. In Hebrews 10, verse 16, it says, "This is the covenant that I will renew with them after those days, says Yahweh. I will put my laws into their hearts, and in their minds I will write them." And that's what the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program does. On the front of the book, you have the picture of the earth with the palm branches, and it says, changing the hearts and minds. And this program does. It's very, very encouraging to see it working in our young women's lives. So today, we have a very special program lined up for you. Recently, the women's missionary team we received a call, and we were asked, are the girls ready? And we said yes, without hesitation. These girls have been training. They're ready. And the presentation, we're going to have a short film that you can see, just a little idea of what they did, where they went, but how these people in our world today, they want peace, but they do not know how it can come about. They want it, but they'll say, I don't believe it, because I see wars everywhere. Constantly, there's fighting. And you're going to see a little child, or actually you're going to hear about a little child who they call the demon child. And it was in a program that they went to called KinderCare. And when they went to there, it was for 4 to 6-year-olds. And the director was so amazed how the Peaceful Solution instructors, the young women, calmed this little boy down. and you'll be able to hear a testimony and a witness of what occurred. And also, they were actually able to go to a radio show and ask on-the-spot questions. And you'll see how whenever you leave Abel, you only go with your books and the knowledge. So just remember, coming to these classes and knowing, and then applying, and then teaching, that's what our job is. That's what being a part of this team. And I'd like to encourage everyone to come, be a part of the team. We have an amazing team of teachers here that come together and that we guide and we lead and direct by our example and by the teachings of the greatest teacher in the world. So now I'd like to turn it over to the video.
It's the inside. Like when you first meet someone, you see their personality, and so you think they're a nice person, but their character, they might be disrespectful, or they might be honest. So the character is really what matters in a person. One of the great things about Peace Solution is that it gives you step-by-step and like instructions on how to improve yourself.
As parents, it is our obligation, because this program is a simple, practical principles that can be taught in any school.
I always wonder, like, how am I going to teach him? How am I going to be sure that he turns out to be a great person? I'm very glad to have this.
In teaching, like even in the classroom, it can help, children like me. When I was a child, I was taught that to help them stay on the right path and have a good future. Helped me a lot.
Really? In what way?
To just, show respect to others, be kind to my authorities, be obedient, follow their instructions to be accepting of others.
What a breath of fresh air. Be kind and obedient and respect your elders, even if you don't like them, right?
Everyone deserves respect.
Mm-hmm.
Shalom, everyone. My name is Yisrayl. You may be seated. Today I'm talking about my experience going on my first missionary trip, and also to show you the importance of remaining in the classes and learning what to teach. So on August 8, we went to Laredo, Texas, and we stopped by a school called Kinder Club Learning Center. I got to teach a class of 1-year-olds. The 1-year-old children were very interactive. They loved the Peaceful Solution puppets. We talked with them about obedience to their parents and teachers. The teachers of the school asked us many questions about the program and about our training. One woman asked me if I enjoyed teaching and how I became a teacher. She was surprised when I told her that I have been training to become a teacher of the Peaceful Solution.
I'm thankful for my training in the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program because I was able to answer all their questions. Please turn with me to Jeremiah 1, verse 7. It's on page 573. Jeremiah 1, verse 7. It says, "But Yahweh said to me, do not say I am only a youth, for you will go to all to whom I send you, and whatever I command you, you will speak." This is what Yahweh says to all the children in the House of Yahweh today. We are given all the training we need to be able to go out and teach the Peaceful Solution. We will be training the 2 billion that come, and then we will be sent out to go and teach the universe. We need all the training that we can get. In the 5th book of Israel, chapter 23, verse 108, Pastor says, "Encourage your children to attend these classes, brethren. Your children who attend these classes are going to be used by Yahweh very soon to prophesy. It's going to be a magnificent sight when you see your child on TV, and he's prophesying, and they are able to prove what he is saying. Now is the time for us to put forth all our effort into training to become teachers. We need to get into all the classes and study as much as we can, so that when it's our turn to teach, we have the answers. We are the only people on earth that have the answers to the world's problems, and when they come, we must be prepared and ready to teach them the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program. So I'll see you at class, and with that, I'd like to turn it over to the next teacher.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. You may be seated. The title of my speech today is Team. And I want to start off by sharing an experience with you. So there were 2 different days, and one day we were supposed to go to the Kinder Club, as you heard, and the other day we were supposed to go to the radio show. And so we were told the night before, you're getting ready to go to the radio show, so have what you are going to say in your mind. So we all get in, and we drive to our destination, and someone looks out the window and they say, we're out of school. And we look around and we're like, well, we don't have any materials, we don't have our books. And they said, well, you're going in and start to teach. So we walked in, and the teacher calmed the students down, and she started a class, and another person had to go and get the supplies. And I started to look around and observe the environment around us, because the teacher had started, the children originally were talking and out of their seats, and when she came up there, in a calm tone of voice, they sat down and they listened to what she had to say. So when they returned with the supplies, some of us started, preparing the supplies to give to the students. Some of us were passing it out to different classrooms. Some of us started working with the children. And it was interesting to see the comparison between how easily we fell into our places and we did what was needed to be done to make the experience go smoothly, no matter the fact that we didn't have the materials with us at the very important time. Now, I was observing the way the teachers were interacting with the students. And I was in a room with another one of us, and we were preparing, some of the activities for the children. And we heard this teacher screaming at the top of her lungs to this child. And in response, the child was in tears, and he was screaming and he was crying. And the rest of the teachers, they kind of blocked it out, and they were working with the rest of the students, and for the most of the part, they were calm. And after the class, the director came up to us and she said, I noticed how calmly y'all deal with the children. She said, I noticed when I yell, they yell. And she said, I would like you to teach our staff. And it got us to thinking, we're so used to teaching our children and to practicing these traits. And when you speak to them, you realize that these are things that not everyone knows. And so as simple as it is to us, and we come to class and we talk to each other about it, things that we know, like, character versus personality, respecting one another. When they hear those things, they're amazed. So we can see how important our job is. But we were able to get through our goal because we stayed focused on our goal, that was to teach the children the peaceful solution. So I kind of want to compare that to us in the House of Yahweh, because we all have one goal. We want to enter into Yahweh's kingdom, and we want to teach the world and, also the universe. But how do we do that? And the first speaker touched on that, and the first thing is to become educated.
When we first got there, we didn't have our books, but we got in and we were able to start teaching the class because it was in here, because we learned it and we were able to teach it to others. And the materials didn't benefit us in the other motorhome, wherever they were. They only benefited us when we were able to use them. So you can look around the sanctuary and we have books and we have booklets, and at home we have books on our shelves, but they're no benefit to us unless we use them. Now, what do I mean by the word use? And by the word use, I mean apply. And I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one. When you're studying, you become dependent, on your phone to look up a scripture, or you quickly go to Yisrayl says if you can't remember where, it was said. But we won't always have these things. And as terrifying as that is, we have to get these things in our minds so we don't depend on having the physical materials with us. Like the first speaker said, 2 Timothy 4:2 says to study to show yourself approved. And I want to go ahead and study to show ourselves approved and to be ready in season and out of season. So I'm going to turn to 2 Timothy 4, verse 5. And in 2 Timothy 4, verse 5, it says, "But you be watchful in all things, endure afflictions, and do the work of a preacher or a teacher of the message of the kingdom of Yahweh, and fulfill your ministry." So I looked up the word ministry, and it's the Greek word 1248, and it means service or done with a willing attitude. So it is our job and our service to not only us, one another, but to the world who is depending on us to teach. And the second thing, it leads me back to my title, is to work together and to fall in our place. Because we didn't all get up in front of the class and teach. We weren't all sitting down next to the children. We weren't all making supplies. We fell into our places without, having to organize it. We knew our place and we fell into it, and that's what made it work smoothly. Imagine just you trying to teach, the millions of people who need to be taught the peaceful solution. It's basically impossible. So we can't accomplish what needs to be done without one another. Ephesians 4:16 tells us that we have to be fitly joined with one another to work together as a body. And Day of Atonement is quickly approaching, and that day is all about unity and showing Yahweh that we're at one with Him and at one with one another. And, we are accomplishing our job. And it was amazing to speak to the judge the magistrate judge of Laredo, and he was talking about how in recent years they've seen a lot less cases come to their court. And we know that's because the peaceful solution is being taught there. And, it's nice to see someone who, can see the effects of the peaceful solution being taught. And it's more than just being taught, it's more importantly being practiced and put into their lives. And it was nice to see a difference from the children, being up and running around and out of their seats to calming down and actually listening to what the teachers have to say. And just as the director, she noticed and she said, I'm going to offer y'all jobs. Yahweh is doing the very same thing. He's observing us to see if we're ready. And He's going to give us not jobs just here, but in the world and the universe as well. And it's starting off small, but great things are small things that come together and they form a big picture. So we've started to restore the world, and eventually we're going to restore the universe. So like the previous speaker said, learn what to teach, but be ready to teach what we've learned. Because together, everyone accomplishes more. And individually, we have potential, but together with Yahweh, we are unstoppable. And with that, I turn it over to the next speaker.
Shalom, everyone. You may be seated. May the peace of Yahweh be with each and every one of you. So I was able to go on the latest missionary trip, and our first stop was the museum. And what I was thinking is how there's a lot of museums filled with the wars that had been fought and the people that were killed and how many people were killed. But there's not one museum or even a room in a museum with like the times that the war was prevented or the people who tried to bring about peace and prevent the war. But what causes all this war? In the Mark of the Beast, Volume 2, Chapter 17, page 336, Pastor's reading from Jacob 4:1, and it says, "From what comes war and fighting among you? Is it not from your lust that battle within your members?" Pastor goes on to say, "Only when lust is nourished rather than resisted does it bring forth sin. And we know all sin is the breaking of Yahweh's law, and Yahweh's law says, do not murder." Reading on Jacob 1, verse 14 and 15, "But every man is tempted when he is drawn away out of his own lust and enticed. Then when lust is conceived, it brings forth sin, and sin, when it is finished, brings forth death.
So they break Yahweh's law of do not murder, and in turn they kill so many people. Pastor goes on to say, the thought of disobedience to Yahweh's law is placed in the mind of lustful people through the teaching of Satan's preachers in this world today. He says, this lustful thought will bring deception and war and sin to many during the 100-year judgment, just as it does to the whole world now. Jacob 1:22 says, but be doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving your own selves. So Satan has deceived the whole world into thinking that sin is a great thing, as we see with Eve in the beginning in Genesis 3. And she's also deceived the whole world now, and that's why they're all following after the way of Cain, as we see in Yada 1:11. But sin has consequences, and all these people have died out of war and killing, caused from lust for wealth, money, power, even jealousy and anger, as we see in Cain. So what do we have to do with all of this? Well, we have to be the teachers of Yahweh's laws of peace. So we can put an end to all of this war, the fighting, the killing, because we are, if you remember in Matthew 5 verse 13, says, you are the salt of the earth, but if the salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer fit for anything except to be cast out, to be trodden under the feet of men. You are the light of the world. A city which is set on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do men light a lamp and hide it under a basket, but put it on a lampstand, and it gives light to all who are in the house. Let your light so shine before men, so they may see your righteous works and glorify your Father who is in heaven. So we're the salt of the earth. We're the light of the world. And we should be desiring this job, this great position that's better than anything we could ever imagine or dream of. So let's study everything we can, because when the time comes, if we're not ready, we don't have any excuse. Because Pastor gives us everything. We have the prophetic words, the newsletters, the Yisrayl Says program to take us through all of Pastor's teachings. We have everything we need, and that's only a few, so we have no excuse. And we should be putting forth our every effort to be studying, to be learning from, and paying attention to all the classes and teachings, and overcoming and trying our best to pass all our tests, even though it may seem hard, because it's for our learning, it's our chastening. As Hebrews 12:11 says, that no chastening seems joyful at the time, but afterwards is when it produces the peaceable fruit of righteousness, only if you're trained by it. So we'll learn from our mistakes and help others by setting righteous examples, as Romans 2:13 says. For not the hearers of the law are the righteous in the sight of Yahweh, but the doers of the law are righteous. So let's set an example and teach others by the things that we do. And after we teach them, in Psalm 72, verse 3 says, then the mountains and hills will bear peace for the people by righteousness. He shall come down like rain on the mown grass, like showers which water the earth. In his reign the righteous will flourish, and peace will abound until the moon ceases. And after that, then maybe we can make our museum of peace, to show how many people we turn to righteousness and how many countries are now keeping Yahweh's laws of righteousness, holiness, and peace. So let's look forward to that. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to the next teacher.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. You may be seated. If you were given an opportunity to speak on a radio show as a representative of the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program, what kinds of questions would you be asked? How would you answer? What main point from the program would you teach about? I had never thought about it before, but that's exactly what occurred. On our second day, we met with several people who operate a radio program in Laredo. The main talk show host asked us how we got involved in the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program, and if there was an experience in our lives that made us want to be a part of this great organization. The first question was easy to answer. The second question, however, I want you to think about how you would answer it, and I'll come back to it later. We didn't know it when we walked in the studio, but Yahweh would open up more opportunities for the Peaceful Solution, just like He did at the school the day before. We thought we would only have about 10 minutes on air. But after we got there and started talking, it was clear they would let us all have a turn if we wanted it, and we ended up being on the air for nearly an hour. While taking our turns at the microphone, we shared our stories and how the peaceful solution helps everyone, from a young infant to even the oldest person. The environment was even brought up, and the host could clearly see that whatever topic was brought up, whatever problem presented, we had a solution to fix it. They were so impressed that towards the end of the program, they were asking how to be a part of the program. And that was when I realized the importance of our training. We needed to be able to answer his questions about how to get involved and where they could go to get the information. People are really wanting what Yahweh has to offer, right now in the form of the peaceful solution, but soon we will make it clear it is Yahweh's laws they are really longing for. It seemed like everywhere we went, people wanted to help us get the message out, and the radio station was no different. They offered to help raise funds for the organization, which we suggested they do for their city, so the money could be used to get the Peaceful Solution Character Education program to every school in their city. Not only that, but we were offered our own radio show, which they would help us get started, and Eva said we could come take over the studio. That should show you the trust that they have for people who practice this program. But why would people go out of their way for a bunch of young people they didn't even know? That brings me back to the second question. We were asked upon starting the interview, what experience in our lives made us want to be a part of this great organization? And by the way, great organization was the words they used. Each one of us in the House of Yahweh needs to answer this question for ourselves. Now, when I was a child, I didn't make the choice to become a part of the Peaceful Solution. It was something that I was taught, and I did it. But as I grew older and started making choices on my own, I realized that I do want to be a part of this. And not just for a set time, but for forever. This is a very great blessing that all of us have, and we should take advantage of it. Now, the host was referring to great organization, being the Peaceful Solution Character Education program, but we know there's a lot more to that. This great organization is based upon Yahweh's 613 laws, and we are all a part of it. We are going to be the ones teaching this great multitude that is soon to come. We talked on the radio program for about an hour specifically about the Peaceful Solution, but when the multitudes come, Yahweh will open up their minds, and we will be teaching them about Yahweh's laws, which are the Peaceful Solution. In the 10th book of Yisrayl, part 1, chapter 18, verse 89, Pastor says, "They will completely cover the earth, governing with you in unity, so that you can be able to help others and become teachers." That's what your purpose is, to become teachers and guides of the world, because that's what we're going to be doing with 2 billion people very, very soon. Sisters, the only way that we can become teachers is to first learn it ourselves. That is why we have Yisrayl Hawkins, who is telling us to get involved in these classes and to study. If we are diligent in doing these things, we will have the knowledge in our minds to be able to answer any question that we are asked. People are begging for this information. They may not be asking the question, but through their suffering, they are showing that they want this to end. So we must be ready to teach them and show them that it truly works. One thing that the host said that really stood out to me was that during the interview he said, "I only have about 15 more years to live, and I want to do something to help promote this program. I look at you all who are so young and see you have a long life ahead of you and great potential." This made me realize how blessed we truly are. As young people, sometimes I think we don't realize the great opportunity that we have to truly be a part of this program. There are people that would they had this program when they're younger. They could go back and change what they did in the past. We can be a generation that has no regrets. Praise Yahweh. Yes, we, the young people in the House of Yahweh, can be a generation that has no regrets. All we have to do is take hold of what we are being taught and make it our own.
We have to decide in our own minds that this is what we want forever and let nothing change that. In closing, I would like to read a scripture, and it's Revelation chapter 3, verse 11. It says, "Behold, I come quickly. Hold fast that which you have, that no man take your crown." We are the only true hope this world has. Let's work together in unity so we can accomplish this goal. Now I'd like to turn it over to the next teacher.
Shalom, everyone. You may be seated. Okay, so I also had an opportunity to go on the latest missionary trip. And our first stop was the museum. Inside, we saw memories of wars that had been fought. And we were also walking outside. We saw the walls of the names of people who had died fighting in these wars. And which is breaking Yahweh's laws, do not murder. But the war didn't start in Cain's time. The war started in Cain's time when Cain killed his brother Abel. The consequences of Cain's actions were continual war, vengeance, and retaliation, which is found in Genesis 4. Our next stop was the Kinder Club Learning Center. I was able to work with a group of 1-year-olds. We taught them the concepts in the peaceful solution. When a situation would come up, we reminded them about asking, being respectful, saying please and thank you. By doing this, we are planting a seed of positive character within them. But these children are not taught the peaceful solution or the laws of Yahweh on a daily basis. Even the world leaders, for example, like Congressman Randy Weber, he said he's seeing the damage we have done to the children. So much more that we, the House of Yahweh, should push the teaching of the laws of Yahweh to our children. Pastor said in the 13th book of Israel, part 2, chapter 7, verse 44, it reads, "The 10 Commandments are the greatest laws you could ever hope for, that your child would live by." And of course, that's what we're teaching the children to teach. We are teaching the children so that they can grow up and teach what they learn to others, and they can teach it to more and more people after that. If you can turn to Proverbs 22:6, it reads, "Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it." Also, in Psalms 119, verse 165, on page 486, it says, "Great peace have they who love your law, and nothing will offend them, cause to fall because of unbelief or sin." So we don't just want to know the law and keep it, but we want to love the law. In 1 Timothy 1, 8-9, it says, "We know indeed that the law is perfect if one agrees with the law, taking it to himself to use. Knowing this, the law is not only laid down for a righteous man, but also for the lawless, disobedient, for the unrighteous, and for sinners," and so on. So the law is laid down for everyone, not just for the unrighteous. The old, the young, everyone can use the peaceful solution, and so on. We don't want to be teaching the children the foolishness of the world, but the peaceful solution, which is the laws of Yahweh. We also want to set a righteous example for our children. In Matthew 18:6, it says, "But whoever causes one of these little ones who believe in me to sin, it would be better for him to have a great millstone hung around his neck and to be drowned in the depths of the sea." So remember, learn what to teach so we can teach what we've learned, because one of your best ways to teach is by your example. And with this, I'll turn it over to the next speaker.
Shalom, everyone. You may be seated. So everyone enjoying the Sabbath? I was going to say the feast. Okay. So Yahweh called everyone here to be teachers. Over here, I've stressed that many times. And the first step to becoming a teacher is learning what to teach so then you can teach what you've learned. And overseer is always stressing how we must be studying, going to class and services, and really paying attention. Not just reading, but taking notes and studying and marking. In the 13th book of Israel, part 1, chapter 22, verse 102, it reads, "You need to do this, brethren. You need to buckle down and get to studying every minute you possibly can. Either study the books of Israel, the books of Yahweh, listen to the sermons. In fact, you can listen to the sermons now 1 year if you can train yourself to do that and read, so you can do 2 things at once. You can study both ways here. You can listen to the sermons on one hand and read on the other. Don't waste your time. Keep building your mind. It's going to be worth it here in a few days. You're going to see all of this break loose, and we're going to receive this great gift if you're ready. If you're not ready, you're going to get left out." So the time to build our minds is now. The 2 billion will be coming, but not just that. We can be called upon to teach at any moment, even right now, during the service right now. Did your heart start pounding? I know mine would. As you know, we went on a missionary trip, and while we were in Laredo, we had the privilege of teaching at Kinder Club Learning Center. We had spent the first day traveling. We had a lot of time, so we spent the day cutting out pictures, worksheets, getting ready to teach, and we assigned each person a different book, so that we would all have something different to teach. And of course, which one did I pick? The first one, ownership. So the next day we were getting ready, and while we had some time, we kept cutting out worksheets, pasting on construction paper, getting ready. And then we all put it all in the tote and left it on the RV. And we drove to where we thought we were going was the radio station. And then while we were driving there, I was just talking, had no nervousness. And someone gets a phone call, and all I hear behind me is, "Okay, well, our stuff is on the RV." And my heart started pounding. I was like, what? Oh no. And so apparently the days got messed up, as you heard from the first speaker, and we were going to the school. And of course, I picked ownership, so me and my partner Izani, we picked ownership, so we were first. And as soon as we got in there, we didn't have any time, we just started teaching. And we didn't have our activities, we didn't have our books, we didn't have cards, we didn't have a speech, we just had our brains. That's it. So just imagine getting up in front of a group of like 30, probably 20, but it felt like 30 children, having to keep their attention, having to teach them the peaceful solution, and not having anything, not having a book, not having cards, not even having an activity because they were all like 7 and under. But we did it. And one of the reasons we did it is because, like she said, we have a team and they work together to help us out so that we could teach them while they were getting stuff ready and bringing our tote back, thankfully. But all we had is our brains and the knowledge that we were taught here, going to classes and studying. That's all we had. And it really made me think, because thankfully they were children and I work with children a lot, and that ownership book I taught 1,000,000 times, so I was able to teach them no problem. But it got me to think, what if I was put up there with a different topic, more older people? So then that would make me a lot more nervous, but I would have to rely on what I had been taught or what I had been studying. And so it really makes you think. You got to really start studying and get it in our minds. In speech class, our director told us to write a speech and put it on cards and then really study it and learn it so that when you're put on the spot, you're prepared. And I think that's a great thing to do because you never know when you're going to be called up. So it's up to us to obey overseer and get our minds ready, because it will be us up there teaching and looking really smart, or frozen, not knowing what to say and kind of looking stupid. So I'm going to read another quote from the 8th book of Israel, part 1, chapter 21, verse 46. If you don't understand it fully, get that thing and get you somewhere, a place where you can be quiet, where you can be at peace and quiet. If you have to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to listen to it quietly in your home, then do so. But you really need to get that. There won't be time later for the foolish virgins that don't do it now. They won't have time later. That's the parable Yeshua gave you to go by. And he said, those who follow my words, who take my advice and do what I say, they're going to be classified as a wise person that built their house on a rock, where it wouldn't get washed away with the flood. Now, I'm not saying that I'm perfect at studying. I sometimes struggle with studying like everyone else, but at first I'd have to force myself to sit down and study. But then it becomes something that you enjoy doing and you look forward to every day, and you get all your pens and your highlighters out and your bookmarks and get your prophetic word and sit down and really study, and you look forward to it. And the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program and the laws of Yahweh, they're our life. We live it every day. And if we apply ourselves to the teachings, then we won't be found lacking. We'll be prepared to teach. So we have no more excuses if we are found lacking when we're called upon to teach. It's up to us. So let's all learn from this experience and really cram for the exam, because we're all here to be teachers and we can all get called up at any time. So are you ready? With that, I'll turn it over to the next speaker.
Shalom, everyone. You may be seated. So today I would like to share with you 2 experiences that really stuck out to me from the trip we went on. So have you heard from the speakers before? We went to Kinder Cub Learning Center. And so after we were done speaking, we were talking with the directors, and we mentioned how we all love dealing with children. And she said that she wanted to hire us because from the classes that we taught, she could tell how well we really interacted with them. And as we kept speaking with her, I kept hearing a child cry. And anyone who knows me knows that I don't like children to cry. If they're crying, I want to figure out why they're crying. And so I turned around and I realized that there was a teacher talking to him. And it didn't seem to help. So the director, soon he started kicking and screaming and he was hitting the table. And the director asked one of us to go talk to him because maybe we could calm him down. So I went over there and I talked to him, and I soon found out that his name was Benji, and he was upset because he didn't want to sit down. So I went down to his level, and as I was talking to him, I told him that when we get upset, it doesn't give us a right to scream, it doesn't give us a right to kick or hit things. But when we get upset, we need to calm down and count from 1 to 5. So we counted from 1 to 5 on his hand, and I said that when we're given an instruction, that we need to obey the instruction. And if we don't understand the instruction, that we should ask. And he was about 4, 5, or 6. And even because they're so young doesn't mean that they don't understand things like that. So after I explained everything to him, he calmed down. We went to the teacher and he apologized for being disrespectful. And we explained to the teacher how when he gets upset, that we talked about he should count from 1 to 5. Praise Yahweh. And the director was really surprised about how just talking to him in a calm voice, how he calmed down. And then she looked at me and she said, "My daughter doesn't listen to me. I need you to talk to her." So I took her and I sat down. I was talking to her. We talked about why it's important to obey and what she allows to make her, what she allows to upset her, and how to deal with it. And after I spoke to the director's child, the director told her daughter to do something and she didn't listen. And she looked at me and she said, "I don't think it worked." And I said, "Well, it's going to take time. You can't just tell a child once. You have to tell them, and then you have to reinforce it consistently. We have to set the example. We can't tell a child not to yell, then turn right back and yell at them." And she said, "Well, we've been raised on tough love." And we continue to stress to her how we are the examples. If we want them to treat us with respect, then first we must set the example and treat them with respect. Then, as someone stated earlier, she said, "I think my staff needs to be trained." And we agreed and stated that the great thing about the Peaceful Solution is when you're training others, you're actually help training yourself as well. And as we were leaving and speaking, the director was speaking to some of the other instructors of the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program. She told one of them that we had cured a demon child. And they're like, "What?" And so I kindly stated that we simply calmed down a child. And that was really an eye-opener to me, because simply calming down a child was a major thing to them. And most of us have grown up with the concepts of the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program, and we know them very well. But when you see these concepts implemented in a place where they haven't been implemented before, you can see the purpose of the Peaceful Solution and Character Education program and how it really does change the hearts and the minds. And how important it is to study, because we can know the page numbers, we can know the books, but when someone comes to you and they say, I have a problem with accepting myself, you can't say, oh, we have an acceptance book and it's going to help you. Because they can read it, but unless you tell them, okay, this is, you give them the book, you explain it to them, this is how you implement it, this is how you practice it, it's not going to help. They need someone to guide them. We were given an opportunity to go to a federal court in Laredo, Texas. Now, we don't have any pictures because they would not allow any cameras in there. But we went to a courtroom and we spoke to a majesty judge, and we were able to ask him certain questions that actually really opened our eyes about really what the court system is about. And then we went to the United States Marshal's office, which is located in the same building. And I was just expecting to speak to a couple marshals, but we did that and much more. As we walked into a certain part of a building, the marshal said, this is a place you never want to be in. I'm thinking, then why are we going in there? And as we walked through the door, we walked down a ramp, and we turned the corner, and there was a garage. And he said that that's where they bring in the illegal immigrants when they cross the border. That's where they bring them in, and then he showed us where they get fingerprinted. And he also mentioned that they do paperwork. And so, in one day, the people come in at 6 o'clock. They leave around 5 o'clock that day. And so, in one day, they were getting 120 people. And he said that became too much paperwork for them to do. So now they go to different places. And as we walked into another room, we saw the holding cells that they were in. And since we weren't able to take pictures, I was trying to think of something that I could remember. And so as we walked into one of these cells, you see 2 large benches, and on the walls you see names everywhere. And there was one quote, and it says, it was all I could do to stop crying. And the marshal mentioned to us that they were only there for 8 hours. So I'm thinking, how horrible can those 8 hours be if they're just waiting to go to the courtroom? But as we know that, the BC system is not kind. They're vicious and they rule by force. And we were able to see, and we went into the elevator that the prisons go to. The prisoners go in so they can go to the courtroom. We were able to walk down and see the door that the prisoners go into the courtroom. And we were able to talk to some people who worked in the marshal's office and also talk to some other U.S. marshals about what they do. And as we were speaking to the marshal, he mentioned that if the people that come in, if they show them respect, then the marshals themselves will show respect to the people that come in. And the first thing I immediately thought of was a Peaceful Solution quote that says, we don't give respect to get respect, we give respect because it's what? The right thing to do. And he went on to say how he deals with this so much that he's become desensitized. So everything he kept saying reminded me of how we've been taught that we are the only hope this world has. We are the only hope. And as we see in the news every day, every Sabbath, we have a big job to do. And our purpose in life is to teach everyone peace. And peace only comes through education, the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program. We are the only hope this world has. You and I together will bring peace. And with this, I'll turn over to the next speaker.
Shalom, everyone. You may be seated. So I'm going to take you back 4 years ago in 2013. It was actually our trip to Mexico. And well, this trip, everything went well for me. Everything went well until they called us up on stage. Now, they called all of us up on stage. And to be honest, I thought that we were just going to go take pictures. And well, I seen this mic being handed around to everyone. And then whoever held the mic did a mini speech. Now, honestly, that got me scared because I was like, okay, I'm not ready. I didn't, and then so I got really scared, but then somehow it ended up in my hands, and I was like, okay. So then I had to speak. So I was talking a lot about the peace solution that I forgot to pause for the mayor to actually translate what I was saying. So probably half the people didn't understand what I was saying. But from this experience, it taught me to study the piece of solution, so I will always have something to say when I'm on the spot, which I'm glad I had something to say when I was there. And first thing, to prepare yourself for in any situation like this one where you're on the spot, is to study. And as you heard, studying isn't only like reading, but it's actually understanding what you read, that you're actually able to explain it to someone. Because I can read a small paragraph in a few seconds, but if you're going to ask me a question about that paragraph, I probably wouldn't be able to tell you. Or either I have to say, okay, let me go look back at the paragraph and read it probably 5 to 6 times. But once you understand what you read, it will help you to remember as well. And something that helps when studying is using your materials, like your highlighter for highlighting main points, and a pen or a pencil for writing like extra notes. And for me, I like to use pencils because I don't like to, when I get new things, I like to keep it new. And that can be a great thing or a bad thing, because the bad thing is that my books will like my books will have nothing in it. It will just be like plain. It won't have highlighters or any like pencil marks or anything. But I learned to use those things. And I realized as well how easier it became to remember the things that I highlighted or I marked in my book. Because when I highlight things, it kind of makes me remember, and even though I don't remember exactly every word, I remember that I highlighted that, so I can always go back to that book and, look at all the highlighted parts and find the spot. Another way to study is to study with others, to study with people. And they may understand something that you probably didn't get or understand, and you probably understood something that they probably didn't understand. So, you help each other. And there was a study in the University of Houston. It says that we remember 70% of what we discuss with others and 10% of what we just read. Now, what's amazing is that you remember 80% of what we personally experience. And remember, they always told us that applying the piece of solution, applying the laws in our own lives, well, you remember 80% of that. And in the 7th book of Israel, part 1, chapter 6, verse 4, it says, "You know the things that you saw there in Deuteronomy and Timothy. They need to be at work in our lives, and you need to be true to them. That is what will bring peace in the workshops. It will bring peace throughout the nations. You're going to use those rules, those laws that Yahweh gave to Moshe there to bring peace to the nations. And the more we can apply it to the offices we're now working in, brethren, the more peace we're going to have and the more practice we're going to get in overcoming and also teaching them." So therefore, let's study so that when the mic is handed to us, we'll have something to say. And now, I'd like to turn it over to the next speaker.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. You may be seated. Has everyone enjoyed the program so far? Praise Yahweh. I hope you've been encouraged. Sometimes in the day-to-day grind, it's hard to remember the big picture, what the goal is, what we're aiming for. And this is a small reminder and a great encouragement that this is coming. Very soon we will be sent out to teach. So every time we are blessed with the opportunity to go on a missionary trip, it is always clear to us that the teachers and the leaders of the world are not able to solve problems peacefully. In schools today, much greater emphasis is placed on the regular curriculum instead of character education. And when we are sent out, the world can always see that we have the answers. We can develop a character in students that will help them have positive interactions, as you heard about the teacher who offered us jobs. Today, I'm speaking on how important it is to train and prepare our children to be ready to teach the 2 billion coming and for teaching the universe. So I want to read you a few articles just to remind you of where our schools are headed. So the first one is September 21, 2017. Horrifying video shows students beating a Georgia teacher after she tried to break up a fight. September 22, 2017. When the teacher is the bully. This article said that this teacher had crossed the line from basic discipline to regularly berating, intimidating, humiliating, and physically abusing her students. It gave one story of a student who said he'd rather look out the window than look at her angry face. And when he looked out the window, she came up to him and slammed his head on the desk several times. September 13, 2017, St. Martin Parish high schools may get metal detectors. And April 19, 2016, Colorado School District arms security guards with rifles. So these are our educators without education, which brings me to my title, which is Educators with No Education. Your children have the real solution. Do these people sound to you like they have any hope? Or they have any solutions? Absolutely not. But the point I want to make today is, do you have the solutions? Do your children have the solutions? I want you to think for a moment about the leaders of the world, the authorities, and the people that we look to. Are these the people that you want your children to emulate? These are educators with no education. What about the superheroes? These are presented to the children as people who are brave and strong. These people can save the world. And the children are fascinated. But have you ever met a superhero who could solve a problem without a fight? There's not one that can dissolve a conflict peacefully. These are the educators without education. In the parenting manual, it says that a child's character is formed by 3 years old. My son is 1, and I have 2 years to make sure that I am setting an example of righteousness. We are commanded to teach our children diligently. Diligently means marked by persevering, painstaking effort. This is how much effort it requires on our part to teach Yahweh's laws diligently. The laws must be continually on our children's minds. It was so beautiful to me when Pastor said in the New Moon film that we have to impress the laws on the mind so much that they would actually have to decide to do evil, because the law is stronger than the influence of the carnal mind. Do you see, yes, praise Yahweh. Do you see that a child that's trained in this manner would be able to solve any problem that is set before him better than the leaders and superheroes of the world? So I hope that you were encouraged by the presentation today, because it is a small reminder of the job that's soon coming for us. It will not be just one small school in Laredo or in the state of Texas. Very soon, the 2 billion refugees will be coming to us. They will have been through the most awful things, and they will be relying on each one of us and our children to have the real hope. Sisters, we are the only true hope for this world. Praise Yahweh. So after that, then what is our next assignment? The universe. That is no small job. And as it was mentioned yesterday in services, that the beings throughout the whole universe are waiting on us. They are groaning because of the sins that they have suffered, and they are hoping that we will be the ones to guide them and show them a way out of their misery. So I want to simply encourage you to get on top of your training. Get on top of training the children and show Yahweh that we are taking this job seriously. I'd like to close with a scripture, Isaiah 59:21. It says, "As for me, this is my covenant with them, says Yahweh. My spirit which is upon you, namely my laws which I have put in your mouth, they will not depart from your mouth, nor from the mouths of your seed, nor from the mouth of your seed's seed, says Yahweh, from this time and forevermore." And with that, I will turn it over to our next speaker.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. You may be seated. The title for my presentation today is Choose Your Battles, Know Your Friends. The choice is always yours. Know where you stand. I'm going to start off with a scripture in Matthew 6, verse 33. And it's on page 733, Matthew 6:33. And it says, "But seek you first the kingdom of Yahweh and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you." And just a few weeks ago, Overseer told us to rearrange those words. Seek you first the kingdom of Yahweh. Seek you first the habitations of Yahweh. Seek you first the priest of Yahweh. Seek you first the studying the knowledge from the house of Yahweh. Studying has to be the first and foremost thing on our mind every day, all the time. Now, Overseer also told us recently that when we're studying, we will be able to tell a problem before it arises in our lives. And what do we call that in the peaceful solution? If you can see something before it ever becomes a problem in your life. If you're studying, you're planning, and you can see it before it becomes a part of your life. Yes, setting your mind in advance. Excellent. That is what we call it. All right, so I hope everyone is practicing on studying and setting our mind in advance. All right, so that's what we call it. Setting our mind in advance. And the only way we can do that is when we're studying, when we're practicing. Now, does that mean that if I don't feel comfortable getting in front of a class to teach, or you don't plan on the next 20 years teaching in front of a class, that you don't have to study? Because you're not going to be teaching in front of anybody anyways. No, that is not correct. We always have to study. Because if we don't study, then why do you know why you're here? If we don't study the material of the house of Yahweh, how do we know we believe in the house of Yahweh? How do we know that we believe in the peaceful solution if we're not studying? It has to be the thing in the forefront of our mind at all times. Now I want to pose this question to you. If I walked up to you and I told you, the woman that gave birth to you, she's not your mother, what would you say? You wouldn't believe me, right? She gave birth to you. She brought you into this world. She taught you from the womb. You've physically seen her in your life every single day. You know that she's your mother. But how do our children know Yahweh is their father? How do we know that Yahweh is our creator if we don't make it real for them? It has to be real for us. We have to take the plan of Yahweh, take the Holy Scriptures, make them real in our everyday lives. And the only way we can do that is by studying, because if it's not real to us, we're not believing in it. We can't see it. We can't see Yahweh like we do our mother. We can't see Yahweh physically in front of us like we do our father. But through studying, we can see that Yahweh created all these things. We can see that Yahweh is the only creator of the universe. And by seeing that, believing it, and putting it into our everyday lives, it strengthens our faith in the house of Yahweh. And we have to do this not only for ourselves, but especially for our children. Because children that grow up in the house of Yahweh don't just assume they know everything. Don't assume that they just grasp it from the sermons. We have to be making it real in their lives, because as they grow old, they're going to have to make a choice. And if we haven't given them all the knowledge equipped to make that choice, then we are failing our next generation in the house of Yahweh. Again, always remember, as well as making the plan of Yahweh real, making our job real for ourselves as well as our children, also having them recognize and for ourselves that every action has a reaction. Every choice has either a reward or a consequence. Nothing goes unscathed, nothing goes uncaught. There will be a consequence for every wrong choice we make. And sadly, it's usually the innocent that suffer the most. So always keeping that in mind. Now in Proverbs 2 verse 7, it tells us that if we keep Yahweh's righteousness, that we will have Yahweh's protection. And the Psalms 91 goes into telling us that when we keep Yahweh's laws, we have his protection. So I'm going to take you on a quick journey. So here's how it starts. You're sitting in the sanctuary. You're looking around and you see two people walking around. And you see them grabbing people. It looks like they're just randomly choosing people, telling them, can you come grab your things, follow me? Both sides, you're lining up towards the south side of the sanctuary. That's where we're headed. Okay? There's a long line of people. You're in the front and you're looking back, and there's a line as far as you can see behind you. As you go down towards the south exit of the sanctuary, you notice two vans outside. There's two vans for this side, two for that side. You're escorted into the vans and you're sitting down. And it's not just a passenger van like normal. There are benches on the side. So people sit on the side and you're facing each other. Once you're inside, you get seated, you get comfortable. You realize there's no windows in the back. You officially have no idea where you're going, and you do not know what you just signed up for. So as we get into the van starts traveling and going, and everything's smooth. For once, it's complete silence. Nobody's talking in the car, because everybody's wondering what exactly we just signed up for. So as you're going and you're traveling, all of a sudden, you hear gunshots. You hear explosions. The van starts going like this, like an airplane in turbulence. Have you ever seen that? That's what you're experiencing right now in this van. And as you're going, the driver says, calm down. We're just entering a battlefield. It'll end shortly. A battlefield and calm down are not two things that go together in my mind. So we're sitting in this vehicle and we're calming down. So you go a little while longer, and again you hear more gunshots. Only this time the passenger says, duck! And as you stand up, you realize there's gunshots above your head. There's holes in this van. And if you wouldn't have followed that instruction precisely, you would have just lost your life. But in that moment, you didn't really care who was giving the instruction because your life was on the line. So you're going to listen to the person who was saving your life in that moment. Okay? But we're not done yet. So as we get there, you finally reach your destination. Once you get to there, there's this huge expo center that you're going to walk into, and it's nighttime by now. So you have no idea how far you've been traveling or where you've ended up. You go in to walk into this expo center, and you're told to get in single file lines. You walk into the building, you take a right. You go up a flight of stairs, and you're told to take another right. You take your right, and then you notice something. It just got really quiet. You turn and you look around you. There's nobody there. You're completely alone in this building. You have no idea where you are. You have no idea where everybody just went. You're completely alone. I'm going to pause there for a second and let's go back to the beginning. When you were sitting in this sanctuary and you seen people randomly being chosen, it wasn't random like you thought. It was Yahweh showing you that out of the many people that He has chosen, that He has brought to His house, you were one of the chosen that He chose to be a part of this last day's work. As you were traveling and you got into the line, that was you taking your journey with Yahweh. That war zone that you were battling, that turbulence, those gunshot wounds, those are your everyday tests and trials. The gunshot wounds is when sometimes it does hurt us, but we have to push forward and keep going. When you got into that van, the driver and the passenger, those are our counselors who encourage us to always keep going, to never give up. And whenever we're swaying, they encourage us to look at the bigger picture, to stay strong and to push forward to the end. Once you've reached there and you're walking down this line with all of your family around you, that is because in the House of Yahweh, we are a family. Brothers and sisters, we look out for one another. But when it comes down to the end of it, the choice is ultimately ours. No one can make the choice for us to enter into that kingdom. So all the knowledge, everything that we have put into our entire lives in the House of Yahweh, that is what it comes down to. And when you get to that moment and you realize you're alone, you weren't alone. Yahweh was with you the whole way. You just had to believe it. But once you get there and you realize why you're freaking out because you're alone, there's a door in front of you. So you reach out and you finally decide to open that door because you remember you're not alone. You remember everything that you studied. And you open that door to realize you just made it to your job. It's there. All you have to do is open the door and take the knowledge that Yahweh has given us. There's thousands of beings that have waited their entire existence for us to see Jeremiah 23 fulfilled, to see the seed of Yisrayl Hawkins bring forth peace to the entire universe. That is our job. That is our mission. And I want to read real quick Matthew 5:19. And it says, "Whosoever therefore will break one of these laws and will teach men so, he will be called the least in the kingdom of Yahweh. But whoever will do and teach them, the same will be called great in the kingdom of Yahweh." And that is our goal, that is our job, to be great in the kingdom of Yahweh. Not to be greater than our brothers and sisters, but to remain great, because we have been taught by the greatest teacher in the world. The question isn't, do we have the knowledge? The question is, you have the knowledge, what will you do with it? With that, I turn it over to the next speaker.
Hello, everyone. Are you having a great Sabbath day? Okay, you may be seated. Now, what I'm here is to explain about the Peaceful Solution program, about the training that the young girls receive. Now, the Peaceful Solution Character Education program, it's a program where you can requiring training in discernment and acquire wisdom. It helps you to sharpen the wits. Teaching simple, practical principles and techniques in our everyday lives to show us how to gain and build moral, positive character. Now, to gain knowledge is to gain insight into what we should or shouldn't do. We want to educate ourselves. Yes, even us grandmothers. We want to educate ourselves. This program is not only for parents, sisters, brothers, grandmothers, grandfathers, teachers, instructors, sons and daughters. There's no age limit to this program. And most of all, it doesn't have a retirement plan. No matter how old you get, you can still keep training and teaching. This program has a vast amount of knowledge that we can use in our everyday lives. It will guide us and direct us out of many negative situations and conflicts in our everyday lives. The Peaceful Solution Character Education Program shows us how to cultivate our minds in ethical trainings, principles of everyday life. Yes, it even tells you that if you're in a situation and you have to make a decision, you may have to take that road less traveled. It shows us, this program shows us, step by step, how to change the way we think, how we are a unique individual in one human race. It shows us how we can change our way of thinking in the character book to begin with. And it shows us the difference on page 25 of character versus personality. It shows us that character, or personality, we'll start with personality, is our likes and dislikes. It's something when we first meet a person, they have a very friendly smile. They're a very outgoing person. But the character is what the program teaches us to look for. The character, on the other hand, is what helps us to determine from right and wrong. Character defines the way you treat yourself and the way you treat others. It dictates morals and ethical beliefs. It is not easy to recognize a person's character as it is to recognize the personality. Many times, true character is hidden behind a fictitious personality. So in training these girls to be future leaders of the world, we have to show them that all teachers have that opportunity to make a change in their students' lives. We as teachers have to set those examples for those students. With a Peaceful Solution Character Education, you're not only teaching, you are molding leaders for the future. We are instilling within them to bring about a better living condition in this world. And all you have to do is look on the news to see what's going on in the world. How many of you want to make a change? Yes. And we can change it. And it starts with us, changing our hearts and our minds. And it's not that hard to do. It's a choice. The Peaceful Solution Character Education does not discriminate. And I had a woman ask me one time, well, what about women's rights? Oh, yeah. Every woman has a right to be respected. So, can we use this? These are questions. Can we use this in any place? Yes. This program can be used in schools, churches, PTA meetings, county and city gatherings, family gatherings, daycare centers, rest home for the elderly. See, you're never too old to learn the Peaceful Solution. It can even be used in hospitals, social events, even meetings at the UN, where we had a very great, righteous pastor and overseer, Yisrayl Abel Hawkins, to prove to us, yes, it can be taught at the UN. We have met with many people and the government officials and trying to show them that this program is like no other program. It's an actual program that shows you step by step how to change your heart and your mind. And it's a choice. It is a choice. Now, to tell you a little bit about the trips. Now, everyone sees the buses when they get ready to go out. The trip planning is done ahead. There are 3 meals a day, and we have a strict schedule to stick with. Everyone is contacted. Everyone is told how many days we'll be away. Make sure you pack enough things for everything you need in everyday use. Our schedules start early, and sometimes they may finish late. But we always ask the girls to get a great night's sleep so they can be able to perform their jobs for the next day. And we have modest dressing. We encourage the girls to dress modestly because we represent the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program. We are representing Yisrayl Hawkins when we are out there. And we want to present ourselves in manner and conduct according to the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program. We do use the books. The girls are taught how to make lesson plans, how to go over what they're going to teach, and what their plans are. We have visited many schools, offices, government places, and we always work together in unity. Yes, and we have went to history museums, but it was in order to show the young girls how it was 100 years ago from what it is now. Even at my age, back in the 50s, was more of a pleasant time, more of an easy type life, but everything got done. It seemed like it was more safer back then, but never knowing, being shielded from the troubles that were around us. Yes, as parents, we have a responsibility to teach our children, our students that we're placed over. As a grandmother, yes, I'm very concerned, as Pastor Yisrayl Hawkins was concerned, and seeing at the way the world and the way it's going and the choices that people are making. And it starts with each and every one of us in deciding, do I want a positive moral character? We all can achieve it. Now, as myself, I never looked at myself as being a teacher, never realizing that as my sons were growing up, I was actually teaching them. And when Yisrayl Hawkins showed us that, yes, we can become a teacher, it's our choice, it's up to us. I wanted it. I desired it. I wanted that change, the change from the old way to the new way, that I know that I could make a difference in someone else's life. There are rules that we have that the young girls have to obey, and they have to be ready for change at any time. If the schedule changes, they have to be ready at all times. They're quick to obey. I have noticed that. There are guidelines that we must heed to and choices that we must make in a positive way. We guard the young ladies at all the time. Our adults, as responsibilities of the adults, is to make sure there's an adult in front, adult in the middle, an adult in the back, so that at all times the girls are walking in two and no one can split in between and try to come through. It's a great responsibility. It's an responsibility that I have thoroughly enjoyed and being a part of. And every one of us have that opportunity to be those teachers, guide and directors and instructors of the future teachers of the world. We work together and we finish up together. We prepare the meals together. We work in unity. And then on the way home from the trip, you can hear the joyful of how they enjoyed the trip, what they learned, what they know what to look for the next time, how they could improve themselves to be a better teacher the next time. And you think about it. In the character unit, and mine's wore out because I need that one, it said teachers are the true leaders of the world. All teachers have the opportunity to make a great change. To make a great change, not only in ourselves, but in our students, because these students look up to you as a role model. We want to teach them that we must not fail to build moral value. As a teacher, that is your job, to build moral value in the students that you are teaching and training. This will not just reflect the children, but the entire world eventually, all around us. Remember the ripple effect about where you throw a stone in the water and you watch it go out at the ripples go on and on and on. That's what we want to do with the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program. We want to get this out to everyone, in every home that we can get it into. I had the opportunity to speak to a nun at one of our meetings in San Antonio, and she said, I don't think it's going to work. I said, yeah, it will work. And she said, unless you get the parents involved, you're not going to get the children involved. Well, we found out, yeah, the children are very interested in this program. But we have to start, and it starts with us as individuals learning how to be a teacher. Like I said, I never even thought about being a teacher until Yisrayl Hawkins showed me how I could be a teacher. He showed us there was programs that we can join into. We can be here at the Peaceful Solution Character Education training classes. We can join in. We can be a part of it. We can and we will change the future. It's a choice. We may not all get along because of personalities, likes and dislikes, but we can make a change, and it's a choice, an individual choice. It's up to us to try and do everything we can to set that example for these future teachers. And remember, use self-control at all times. It is very essential. If you've ever noticed when you're training a child and you're using harsh, hateful, abusive words, you see that child shrink away. Even as adults, we do the same thing. So let us prove the true love that the Peaceful Solution Character Education teaches us, and be those teachers that love one another, work together in unity to accomplish this job. We will. And I thank you, and I thank Yisrayl Hawkins for allowing me this opportunity. The Peaceful Solution does work, and the only way it won't work is if you refuse it. Thank you.
Shalom, everyone. You may be seated. May the peace of Yahweh be with each and every one of you. Well, we've heard some amazing speakers today, haven't we? Let's give them a hand.
We've heard we need to study, get in the classes, work together as a team, that war does not bring peace, that we choose our own future, and that we need to build our minds now. We've also learned that we are the only hope that this world has, and that we need to be ready and be prepared. 2 billion is a lot of people. We also learned that we need to teach our children diligently, and that we need to make Yahweh real to them. And finally, we learned that we represent the House of Yahweh and Yisrayl Hawkins. Yes, we represent him when we go out there. When you go to the store, when you go to the post office, or when you get sent out there to teach the world. You represent Yahweh. That should be the goal that we have in our minds every day when we get up, sisters. So, getting on a missionary bus takes me back in time. Way back in time. About 31 years back. I was 11, and since then I've learned a lot of valuable lessons. And I didn't know I was preparing for missionary trips when I was 11. I was just coming to the Feast of Yahweh with my parents. And they were very diligent to bring me to his house, feast after feast, year after year, year after year, year after year. And through those years, I spent all my teenage years here. And I look out at you and I see a lot of young people who have been here your entire lives, or very, very close. Now I can say I've been here 3/4 of my life. That's a pretty great accomplishment, I feel. But to get through those teen years, I had to learn lessons. And to stick with it, you have to learn these lessons, sisters. Now, I'm not just speaking to the young people today. I'm speaking to the old people. And I'm not talking the old people with white hair. I'm talking about those of you who have been here 30 years, 40 years. You've been here since Yisrayl Hawkins was here, right? Because some of you have. And I've grown up with you. And I've learned these lessons from a lot of you. And I still learn lessons today. And I know that Yisrayl Hawkins is going to teach me for the rest of eternity, and that's what I want, sisters. So, 31 years is a lot of time, so I'm going to have to hurry. I picked the top 5 lessons that I've learned for today. All right? Y'all see it? That's fine. We're going to count backwards, okay? Number 5. Be a servant. Now I put in little parentheses there. That's also known as a worker. And I learn by doing. I don't know, I would think everybody has to learn by doing in this house because there's so much to learn. If we don't get our hands in there and start doing, we will never learn it. It's like the books, like you've heard today. We don't get in those books, read them, come to the classes, practice teaching it, talk to each other about it. We won't know what to do with it, right? In the 7th book of Israel, part 1, chapter 11, verse 30. This is the teachers of righteousness. And Pastor told us to get the classes. That's the main thing. Get in those classes. You've got to learn to be teachers, and these classes are set up to give you techniques, proven techniques, to make people learn. If you can get in these classes, do so. And if you can't, he said, we'll get you here. just call us. And then he said, get in the classes, but also help in the work. That's part of being a friend to Yahweh and a friend to your brothers and sisters. Get involved in the work in some way or another. Volunteer. Go to the cafeteria. If you're a woman, go to the cafeteria and tell them, I came to work. They'll give you something to do. Yes, they will, sisters. There's so much work to do in that cafeteria. Those women are, they work nonstop. And I have such a great respect for them because they do it every single day. And I feel honored when they allow me to be a part of that great work with them. It is easy to get a job in the house of Yahweh. What's hard is the commitment it takes to keep doing that job day after day, month after month, year after year. Now, for me to handle this kind of situation, Yahweh knew I needed strong people. And throughout my life, he surrounded me with a lot of strong people who were workers. Everywhere I turned, there was work going on, and they were doing it. And they were saying, come, let's do this. Come, let's do that. So I always found myself involved in the work. And it didn't matter if I was licking envelopes and sealing them or putting stamps on them, or stirring a pot in the cafeteria, or cutting potatoes, or picking stickers. Yes, I pick stickers. I enjoyed it because I was with people who were enjoying themselves, and they made it enjoyable to me. There's one deaconess I will never forget. We were at the baptism pond, and she was there. She was everywhere. And one person noticed that besides me, and she said to her, you're here too doing this work. And she said, I want to be in the middle of everything. And she didn't mean that in a prideful way. She loved the work of Yahweh. And she wanted to stay strong in Yahweh. And she knew if she was in the work, she would stay strong. And you know what, sister? She's here today, staying strong in the work of Yahweh. 1 Corinthians 15:58. You can put it down for your notes for time's sake, but it talks about always abounding in the work of Yahweh. And as I grew, that's what I felt my desire to be, to grow in the work of Yahweh and to do it, to be a part of it. So that's number 5, right? Be a servant, a worker. Now, once you're working, you need to be joyful, all right? Because you're going to be tested in that. And this joy is very important. How many of you have seen the new sign? All right, if you haven't seen the new sign, go down to the south office, looking at the south office, right? Turn around and look the opposite direction, and you will see the most beautiful sign. And it says, we must, what? Rejoice. Yes, we must rejoice. It's the law of Yahweh. Deuteronomy 16, verse 14. Read that scripture, sisters, and notice it doesn't leave anyone out. Every person is included in that law, and we all can keep it. It's a beautiful law. And when we have our part in the work, it's easy to find that joy. I also took a lot of joy in coming to Yahweh's feasts year after year. I never grew tired of it. And Psalm 122, verse 1 became very near and dear to my heart, which says, we were glad when they said to us, let us go to the house of Yahweh. You know, sisters, I cried, and I practically chained myself to the sanctuary that my parents wouldn't take me home. I didn't want to go back out there. I didn't want to be a part of that world. I didn't want to have to make up all my homework I missed, but I didn't really care. I did it. I did it because it was worth it if I could come to Yahweh's house and I could sit at the feet of the priests and I could be with such beautiful people. And you know what? We have this opportunity every week for whether you're here or whether you live somewhere else. everyone has this opportunity every week to rejoice on the Sabbath day. That's what Yahweh gave it for us to rejoice, for us to learn to rejoice. One Sabbath day I was frowning, and someone said to me, put a smile on your face. And I was like, how can I put a smile on my face? So there's no way. But I fixed my hair, I took a deep breath, and I smiled. And it didn't feel really great. I didn't feel the best. I still felt not nice inside and grouchy. But as the day went on and I got into my duties, it was a real smile because I forgot about my troubles and I did the work that Yahweh called me to do that day. And I realized that's what Yahweh wants us to learn. He wants us to be joyful in the work we do, and our problems, they'll get solved. Someone else is going to come along and solve them for us because we're helping them with theirs, right? So that leads me to number 3. Be thankful. Now, in Luke 9, chapter 9, verses 11 through 18, you can find some instruction for us and a little account about some men who had leprosy. And the title there is Be Thankful. And Yeshua had actually healed these men. They cried out to him, and he healed them. He said, you're cleansed. And they went their way. And one person came back to him. And that one man that came back, Yeshua said, where's the other 9? I healed 10 of you. And the man, he's like, look around him like, I don't know, but I'm so glad you healed me. May Yahweh be glorified for what has been done for me. He glorified Yahweh, and he was the only one that was thankful. Now, if we think about ourselves today, what has Yahweh done for us, sisters? There's no time here at this podium to count the ways that Yahweh has blessed me. I'm thankful for Yisrayl Hawkins because without him, I know I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't have children growing up in his way, that the way that is Yahweh's way that he taught to me, that he encouraged me to walk in. I'm thankful for the beautiful people that I met here and that have stayed. Some of you have stayed, actually. And, we're not just staying for each other, we're staying for Yahweh. And that is what we need to stay for. If you came here for someone else, you better find your reason you're here, because you won't stay if that's your situation. You have to stay because you have made Yahweh real to you. Second to last here is be willing to forgive. Now, we heard yesterday we're going to get our toes stepped on. A great Kahan years ago said the same thing, and you know what he told us? And I'll never forget it. He made it that vivid to me, and just as the Kahan did yesterday, he said, if someone steps on your toes, tell them, I'm sorry, I was in your way. I would have never thought of that on my own. I needed that teacher at that time. And that is the way we have to be with one another. We are going to step on each other's toes. It's tight corners around here, sisters. There's a lot of us, right? But what mindset do we have with each other? Do we look at one another? When I look around this room, I see women dedicating their lives to Yahweh in so many ways, and I don't even know all the ways. I know. But when I look at each of you, you're here and you have a desire to serve Yahweh. So why would I want to hold anything against you? Ephesians says, don't let the sun go down on your wrath. Don't hold on to anger, because if you do, it will build bitterness in you. And when bitterness takes hold, it's a deadly thing, sisters. And I know we've seen that, we've experienced that in this great house. But the peaceful solution teaches us something wonderful. In Self-Control on page 63, the title says, work it out, don't fight it out. So if we can just remember that simple little phrase and keep it in the forefront of our mind on a daily basis, we can be forgiving. We can realize, nobody's against me here. I'm not against anyone here either. In fact, I love all of you, and I know you love me. And that's what we're about here in Yahweh's house, right? So finally, probably one of the biggest lessons I've learned here in Yahweh's house is to listen with a believing mind. In Ecclesiastes 5, verse 1, we know it says, come here and be ready to speak. Be more ready to speak than to listen. No, you're awake yet? Okay, because we're getting to the end here. Okay. Be ready to listen, then to speak, right? Yes. I've been listening a long time in the House of Yahweh to a lot of you teachers. I've been listening a long time to our great teacher. And I know that I can't say things as eloquently as that man does. And I know all I can offer you is my experience. And I hope that in that, you would see that I've been listening to what they've been teaching, and all I can do is reiterate that to you. Sisters, we have an amazing goal that we are working towards. It's really hard for me to imagine what the kingdom will be like with all the promises that Yahweh gives us. But because we are, we're here now in this great house, that's all I really want. I want to be with you forever. I want to serve with you forever and rejoice with you forever and work out our differences forever and show others they can do it too. And with that, I would glad and honored to turn it over to our great judge.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. You may be seated. So we've heard some wonderful things about this missionary team. Let's give them another round of applause. You can hear the hard work that they've put into it. You can hear the diligence and the challenges that they've had. And you also hear about how successful they've been. And that's the work of our great overseer, Yisrayl Abel Hawkins, and this whole House of Yahweh working as a team. So all of us contribute to that. Give yourselves a round of applause. So I have a question for you. When was the peaceful solution first created? Anybody know? It's on a sign we see every single day coming and going. Anybody remember what the word is? It began with the first thought. I heard it. Wonderful. And that thought belonged to Great Father Yahweh. Before the foundation of the earth, Yahweh planned the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program. And then he put that into the mind of our great overseer, Yisrayl Abel Hawkins. And he has then only grown with that. Now I have another question for you. I like trivial questions. Where in the Yisrayl says, books of Yisrayl, where does he first mention the peaceful solution? I had to prove this for myself. I hope I'm right. If you find another answer, please tell the South Office. But I found it in the second book of Israel. Let's clap for that, because that was a long time ago. So then we know, as we saw in the film the other night, about how our overseer started with this beautiful history of bringing forth the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program. And he started with that big volume of the law books, the Peaceful Solution, volumes 1 through 5. And after that, he went into this little book. Anybody remember the little book? Do Not Steal. He mentioned this in his film the other night, because if the whole world kept the law, do not steal, would we have peace in the world? Absolutely. Just that one little book. From that, we advanced into the elementary series. In 2001, the entire elementary series was born.
And then at that time, we even had the K through 1, grade K and 1 combined. And then we split it. We realized we really needed separate ones for each grade. So it advanced to that. And then in 2003, we came out with the intermediate series. And then in 2004, we did the pilot program. If you want any information about this, I encourage you to study on the website under the About page, because it goes into detail. And that pilot program involved 119 schools around the United States. Every single one of those schools found an improvement in their students' behavior. Every single one of them. That's worth clapping for. So from then, we just kept growing. We came out with the parenting program in 2011. We had the early learning series. 2010 for the parenting, and then 2011 for the early learning series. And then in 2014, we came out with the workplace manual. So with those books, we have covered every aspect of society. That was the guidance and wisdom of the overseer, Yisrayl Abel Hawkins. So now I'm here to share more about the Skype training program. Years ago, that started on the Sabbath. How many were involved in that original Sabbath training? We had to get up early in the morning. Everybody had their little lessons. We got in front of Skype and we shared our classes. I want to see a show of hands. There were quite a few of you I know that got involved in that. So we know the men are way advanced of us. They'll always be ahead of us. And let's give them a clap for being ahead of us and guiding us. So in 2015, we launched what's called the Peaceful Solution Character Education Skype Training Program. And it started with one little group in West Indies with 6 women. And from that point, I want to show you on a map. There we go. Maybe we can zoom in a little bit. On this map, there are now 11 countries. We have United Kingdom, we have Canada. Let's go through the list. Trinidad, Tobago, Nigeria, Ghana, Zambia, Kenya, United Kingdom, Philippines, Japan, and here still in the United States. Many join us. Every first day we have those classes. I want you to give a loud round of applause for all those people that make the effort to gather with us on Skype training. They are the most dedicated people I have ever met in my life, and we share different things from different cultures, different nationalities. I have learned so much from those women. They're excellent teachers of the Peaceful Solution. They would long to be here right now. They would long to be here, going through that certification course, doing what you're doing in your seats right here. So the best we can offer them right now is a Skype training program, and when they come here to do their certification course, they are going to fly through it fast because they're very diligent. I want to share one story about one place on that map. And there are over 30 people that gather in one room for that little computer to do Skype with us. Over 30. Some of those women and families travel 2.5 hours, walking 2.5 hours one way to join our 1-hour Skype class. Isn't that amazing? After they do that, they turn around and walk another 2.5 hours back. Would you be so dedicated? Look at that dedication and the diligence. When I think of them, I think when there's a class, when we have a night class and I'm thinking, oh, I don't feel like going, I've got a headache, I've got too much work to do, I know we can all feel that pressure. I think about those women and I think about how they walk 2.5 hours one way and they don't miss it. So that pushes me to just go my short little distance to drive here and show up for these classes. So let that motivate you. Let that motivate you to come to every class that is offered. So I have a testimonial or two that I'd like to read. She said, honestly, the words cannot explain the benefits of the Peaceful Solution Skype classes to me, especially as one who is training to be a teacher in that field. I've learned how to make references from my one Peaceful Solution book into another. And aren't we doing that in our certification course too? We link them all together, just like we link our scriptures. Also, I've been taught in my Peaceful Solution class that it is important to put down my jottings. I like that word, jottings. We encourage you to write notes in there. So your jottings right into the book, because as a teacher, I may forget to pick up my jotters where I may have written some important points that I can help me in my teaching a class. So you have them in your book. You can run with your book, and as we learned today, you may not even have your book. Isn't that a motivator to get this down even more pat in our brains? We may only have our brains to go with us. That was a great lesson. And that was a lot of diligent work that they put into that. I've also learned that in setting a goal, I must set my mind in advance that there may be setbacks, and I have to be determined to stand firm until I achieve my goals, of which, of course, will be positive. Another one said, "Great morning to the Peaceful Solutions Skype training staff. This is, I won't say her name. As a participant of the Peaceful Solutions Skype training program, I would like to thank first the leader, Mr. Yisrayl Hawkins." Let's all clap for him. And to all my teachers, I would like to announce that since I started studying this program, I realized that I got the greatest school and the greatest teachers ever. And if we've got to study it, we have to study it and put it in our lives. And that helps us, I liked how they said, to know why we're here. This helps us to prove why we're here. So let me go back over here, because we had another new class. She is a prosecuting attorney. And she's been quite an experience to be learning with the Peaceful Solution Character Skype training program. And the first class, they said, "Well, how did you like it?" And she said, "It was great. What's the cost?" Isn't that a typical answer when you do something like that? What's the cost? And the person said, "It's free." Free? Free? You've got to be joking me. This is free? She couldn't believe that we offer this program free. How can you do this for free? Are you glad that we have a free program? She still can't believe it. So this has been a vision of our great overseer, Yisrayl Hawkins, for a long time. Yahweh led me to the 13th book of Israel, part 2. In the 13th book of Israel, part 2, chapter 11. It says, "The Peaceful Solution Character Education Program teaches you to have peace. Peace with your children, peace at home, peace throughout the world. We could stop all wars." You hearing that, presidents of these countries that want to war and fight with one another? We could stop all wars. Stop all wars. Stop all sickness, all disease. Yahweh said they will learn war no more when this work is finished. But that is a wonderful promise right here. Learn war no more. The Peaceful Solution Character Education Program, when you practice this, it kind of gives you the answers ahead of time. And didn't you hear that today? So every action, it demands a reaction. Someone else brought that up too. I thought, okay, Yahweh, you want us to hear this twice. So when you say something, make sure that you want your words to bring you the reaction that you want coming your way. Now think it over. Stop. We know the STOP acronym. Think it over. Now, if you're saying something sarcastic to a person, the reaction is going to be what to you? Is that the action you want? No. Then you finish. Then you think of something to say that'll be more encouraging, that'll bring the action that you want in your life. Now, it could also help the other person to bring an action that they want in their life. This is what the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program is all about. It's about much more than this. You know, it brings a child up, growing up to be like Yahweh. And of course, being like the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program. You're what you learn. You're what you practice. You're what you learn. You're what you practice. I love that little saying right there. So now we're going to turn over to verse 61. This is again in chapter 11 of the 13th book of Israel. The date was 9/21, and it was at a Feast of Tabernacles. He begins in Deuteronomy 6, verse 5. "And you must love Yahweh your Father." I do. I love Yahweh with all my heart. Do you love Yahweh with all your heart? Praise Yahweh. Let's say it together. Praise Yahweh. He says, I've totally dedicated my life to this being, and I want to serve him totally. I want to bring forth what I see in his holy scriptures, the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program. I want to take it to the entire universe. And I've wanted this for several years. This is our job, yours and mine. And everybody claps again. You've got a forever position in Yahweh's house, and the only way you can go is up from here, unless you quit. Are we quitters in the house of Yahweh? What do we have? We have true grit, don't we? I loved that yesterday. True grit. I believe in true grit. It's something we all need to practice. And so let's just keep with the program. Get yourself involved if you're not. If you want to join the Skype training program, please let the South Office know, for those of you that are out there. And we encourage everyone to work diligently to accomplish this great work that Yahweh has prepared for us, because the universe is right around the corner. Thank you for your time, and we'll give our last wonderful teacher a great warm welcome.
You may be seated. Okay, so today we learned about this. The Only Solution Education Program. So keep that in your mind. It's the Only Solution Education Program. I don't know how that got on there. It's like it just sprang up overnight. So you can see that we are the ones that have the only solution. And we've been taught this by our great teacher, Yisrayl Abel Hawkins. Now, he wanted us to start with the bread bag, and guess what he wants us to end with? A bread bag. So, this bread bag, imagine being the overseer and getting your bread and such wonderful messages being on it every time you get your bread. This one says, open only if you want to smile. So we're going to open it. It says, all purple people rejoice. Right there. All purple people rejoice. So we're going to open it, and it had a little message for him. The word rejoice is found in this book. Everybody knows about our Strongs, right? That's a different Strongs than mine. It's kind of fancy. So it's called the Strong's Fancy, Expanded Exhaustive Concordance of the Bible. But the word rejoice in this fancy Strong is found on page 713. Does anyone remember what 713 means? Shout it out. Purple. Is that not amazing? So when we say, all purple people rejoice, we can really know that Yahweh means for all purple people to rejoice. All right. And we're rejoicing in the fact now that we have the greatest teacher who's teaching us how to become teachers. We're learning how to fine-tune our teaching abilities. Here on the women's side, we had an announcement not too long ago about fine-tuning our teaching training for 10 to 25-year-olds. You know, we're really trying to fine-tune these teacher training skills. If you want to get in these classes, please come to the South Office. It's not going to be long now, and we're going to see Deaconess Brittany's little vision there that she was telling us about, where buses are going to be pulling up in the parking lot, and we're all going to be shuffled in, going in all various directions. Or, better yet, which is what I'm hoping, because I don't really want to get on it, but I like to stay at Abel, that there's going to be buses of people coming in. And like our overseer said, they're coming over to us. So we need to get in these classes and get trained, because whether we get on a bus or whether we receive the ones that are coming off these buses, we need to know the only solution. Okay? So we thank you for your attention today. And at this time, we'd like to turn it over to the great priests in the House of Yahweh. Praise Yahweh.